Okay, you are live.
Well, praise the Lord, friends. Tonight we are honored to again have this privilege and opportunity to be with you and to share some good news by way of our grief and loss ministry. I have with me tonight some distinguished guests, praise the Lord. In fact, they're not guests, they're actually the instrumentality that's anointed for this platform. We have the Honorable Minister Rosa James, Minister Corrine Simpkins, and also Minister Sandra Simmons. And so tonight, we're going to be sharing with you about grief and loss. Let me just apologize briefly for the delay. Sometimes these little technical gadgets, we're just trying to get accustomed to them. So you have to bear with us when you come on and sign on, just kind of sit and wait for us until we can work out the kinks. However be the case, we are honored to be here tonight. Before we get started, there is some breaking news that I want to share with you. Minister James is going to share it. It's regarding a FEMA funeral reimbursement program. Some of you may want to take note of this because there is a stipend, a $7,000 stipend that's being put on the funerals. I'm not sure if it's those that just occur during the COVID-19 season or whether they are just strictly COVID-related funerals. But however be the case, if you are impacted or have been impacted by COVID-19, you or your loved one, or you've lost someone as a result of the COVID-19 virus, then there is a stipend that's being given to those who've already paid for their funerals. Rosa, would you please give us some more clarifying insight so that we can understand exactly what this new release consists of?
Yes, this announcement was made March 24th. And for any COVID funeral-related expenses that incurred after January 20th, 2020. So a lot of us may need that assistance. We just go into COVID-19 online and look for funeral assistance. You would need to have the official death certificate of the person that died, the funeral expense documents, and proof of the funds that you paid out for that particular funeral. And there's a chance, as Bishop said, up to $7,000 reimbursement you will be entitled to. They have made that available to anyone that lost a relative through the COVID-19 illness. So take heed to it and make it work for you, because a lot of you didn't have insurance, had to come out your pocket. So it is out there and it is available.
Beautiful. And I'm sure those of you who are listening tonight may know someone that's been impacted by the COVID-19 and as a result of that, they've lost a loved one, etc. So please use this information or help to get this information to them. Ladies, if it's possible, I would like for us to get it printed on the program live feed at some point between now and by the end of the program, so that people can actually view it there under our comment section, and perhaps, you know, from that use it as an access way to actually assisting others who've been impacted. Again, tonight, I am so honored to have these three anointed gifts with us tonight to share. Now, when we're talking about grief, we do understand that if there's loss of any kind, there is a grief unmeasurable by comparison to others. Grief is something that everyone does uniquely. Grief is something that is based upon sometimes the spiritual enrichment of an individual. Sometimes it's based simply upon an individual's ability to manage their emotions. But at other times, there's a similarity of experiences wherein grief literally catches all of us off guard, regardless to how we think we're prepared for it. And it becomes infectious to our emotions in a way that it impounds our psychology. And as a result of that, sometimes we just lose it, we break down, and it takes us and it's what, a substantial period sometimes to kind of get a hold of ourselves. And so tonight, one of the things that we're focusing on so that we can narrow our discussion down is how our grief may impact others around us, because sometimes it has been said that grief makes individuals selfish. Ladies, if you're listening to me tonight, one of the things that happens akin to grief is that sometimes people are so inward and personal with those experiences that they hardly give others the opportunity to come into that space and share it with them who are suffering just as much as they are. And for that reason, psychologists tell us that sometimes the grieving experience is a very selfish experience. And the reason why sometimes it's a lonely endeavor is because of the selfishness associated with it. Grief makes us personalize the individual that we've lost in a way that sometimes we disregard how other people may be experiencing the same pain, if not greater pain. So it's very important for us tonight to kind of use this as a segue into how our grief may impact others around us. And so if you would at this time, either of you can start, and I'll just kind of listen, and we'll let each of you flow and share your experience, and let's talk about how our grief may be impacting others around us.
Well, I think it comes back to what we had said earlier when we first started the sessions, that everybody grieve in different ways. And I noticed that sometimes if one family member is really outspoken with their grief and doing too much crying or too much anything of any nature that shows their grief, there could be a family member saying, oh, she just need to go someplace and shut up, because they're grieving in a different way. They're not allowing her to grieve in her way. So it becomes offensive to that person that's in your family. And you might be a person that outbursts all the time and just tears just come flowing all over the place. We have another family member just want to sit back and relax in their own way and grieve inwardly. But in all that, in each of us is causing pain to the other person, because we're not allowing that person to be themselves in that grief process. So we hurt each other. You said we personalize it, think it should be just our way and not their way. And that can cause a lot of pain within the family itself, anger between each other. Now you know that sometimes when the plans start going on, everybody fussing and arguing about who's gonna get what. The person ain't even buried yet, but they fussing and arguing about who's gonna get what. And all of this causes friction within the household of family. Basically, that's what it is, a household of family members. And we wonder, that's an outward part of it, but inwardly, I'm wondering, should I cry? Because I might offend you if I cry too much.
Wow.
So we hurting each other because we're not allowing each other to do what they need to do to get through the process of grief. You know, I might want to just sing the whole time, bounce around and sing. And you may see that as being disrespectful to the person that has passed away. And again, we're making that person angry with us. So we have a tendency, what I do may not be your way, and because what I do not your way, we become angry at each other for the way we grieving. Your way, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be having fun. Mama died. Why are you so happy? But that's my way of dealing with it. If I stop like you doing, I'm gonna find myself crying the whole time. So I need to be happy and joyous and singing and dancing around. But because we don't do it in the same way, we make another member upset with us. And they want to kick you at the house. You just need to go home. You don't respect mom, you know. But so that's, yes, we do cause hostility within the family itself when we do it our way and not their way. And it's sad, and mainly because we don't know no better. We don't realize that you still grieving, but in your way. And I think hopefully that with these segments as we're doing, people realize that everybody grieve in a different way. Like, I wanted to go to church. My mother passed away. I wanted to stay in church. I didn't want to stay. I wanted to go Wednesday night. Every night there was something going on at the church. I wanted to be there. But some people said, that's disrespect. Why you gotta go to church? Stay home. We here with you. We came to support you, but you want to go outside somewhere. But so all of these things can cause someone else to be upset with you for no reason, really. Just let us grieve the way we grieve. And I'll let you grieve the way you grieve. But will still come back together and hug and love on each other. But it's amazing the effect that it does have. That's me.
Ladies?
Well, for me, I don't think I was quite selfish or but mostly private. I was more private with my parents when I was grieving, but with my husband, I noticed my daughter, she watched me a lot in how I would handle it. And she did realize that I had high moments, low moments, cry, transition through. And I noticed as she watched me, it would govern how she would act.
Wow.
And I realized that impacted her a lot, because if I was upset, it upset her even no more. But if I was calmer and I shared with her, she was more calm. But I never told her, don't cry, don't release. You have to release in your own way. If you want to scream, yell, run up, down the road, anything to release it. And I never really, I never encourage her to be strong, but I always would encourage, you got to trust God through this process. It's going to be okay. Long as I stayed strong enough to encourage her, I noticed that that would give her strength to keep going. So I could see the way I grieve impact her in a more positive way. Now, versus with my son, honestly, I cannot tell anyone how it really affected them, because I never seen or saw their reaction. Only time I can dictate that they really miss their father is when they might put a little statement out on, on social media to express how they miss them, but I really don't even know how I handle it impact them.
Mhm.
See, now, you said something there. Now, between what you and Rosa said, it's amazing how you're basically saying similarities, but you focus more on how your personal grief impacted both your daughter and your son. I will say this, usually men handle grief a little different. Now, that's a general statement. It's not really specific because it's not all men. But there are times when you will find commonly among the males, even though they may be grieving, the outward manifestation of their grief may not be as easy to detect. Because somewhere in our nature, it's been suggested to us that we got to be strong for everybody, like you exemplified for your daughter, and you noticed how it impacted her.
Mm,
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's
You want to
good.
say something else?
I'm finished.
I was gonna say, I'm sitting here thinking of two mothers. I know one mother that not too long ago lost one son, and one mother lost a couple of children. And the one mother that lost one child, she grieved heavily. I mean, she grieved heavily for that child. But the other mother, she's laughing and talking and, hey, how you doing? It's like, okay, did you not know what happened? And I'm sitting there thinking in my mind, gosh, how can you do that? And then me, myself, losing a child, I'm like, why are you acting as if nothing happened? But I'm glad that we're having this session, because now I understand everybody grieves differently. And I can't say that she's not grieving inside. We don't know what's happening inside of her, what she's going through. And it may take her a little bit more time. It may take me a little bit more time. So everybody on on different wavelengths, on different levels, happen to us differently, and we may get through it differently. But and just like Rosa was talking about the anger, and also losing a parent, whereas when we was talking earlier about our parents, how we felt about losing that parent, whereas I was okay with one, but the other one, I was not really okay, but I grieved a little bit differently with one than I grieved with the other. And then watching sister or brother, how they grieve, even though they had a relationship just like I did, loved them just as much as I did, but we were different in our grieving processes.
Mhm.
So and that's just what I was kind of thinking about in terms of how we grieve and how it can affect each other and different people that you're close to.
That's amazing.
So one of the things that we're noticing already is that there are diversities of ways of manifesting grief.
Yes.
Yes.
And there is so little information out there about the impact, about the negative and positive impacts that our grief, our personal grief, has on those around us. What we want to do tonight is make you aware of the gambit of emotions that might be displayed during a period of grief. Now, there may be multitudes of people who are listening to this broadcast right now who are literally grieving, but internalizing all of their anguish, all of their pain. There are some who become very expressive. I tend to be a person who, having grieved the loss of grandparents more so than anyone else that were very close to me. My grandmother was like a mother to me, endearing. I spent a lot of time with her. So I learned through that period, because she and I would always talk about the importance of preparation before. She would talk about with me one-on-one during the summer sometimes while I would stay with her. She would say, son, it's good, June. She would call me June. She said, it's good if you, as best you can, prepare yourself to face difficulties when you see how they affect other people.
Yes.
So when we lost her, I can remember the very moment that I heard it. I remember exactly what state of mind I was in. And immediately I shifted, being alone, to a state of mental conception where I stabilized my emotions based upon what she said to me about how to handle her loss. Isn't that something? And I've been practicing it ever since, and it helps me to some degree to really be strong. And I place most of my emphasis on everybody else during that period, because I see it as something that, even though it's painful, I'll get through it. I just need to make sure that others are going to be able to endure it and get through it as well.
Yes.
Go
That's
ahead.
good. And usually when I counsel in the grief arena, there's 7 things I used to tell everybody to do. And one of them is find a listening post. Find someone that's kind, passionate, that you can share with, and they'll actually listen to you. Talk about it. Cry about it if you have to. And then I tell them sometimes, don't be too strong for yourself. You need to be able to let it go. So it's okay to be weak sometimes. Somebody else come in and love on you once in a while. And don't push yourself too hard. You need to take care of yourself. Don't expect to have only one emotion.
Now, wait a minute. Let's go back to number 1. Let's go back. What was number 1 again?
Find a listening post. Somebody that
listening post. Okay. Go back to them. Now, what was number 2?
Talk about it, cry about it, let it out.
Let it out.
Yes.
Okay. Number 3.
Don't be too strong for your own good. Because sometimes
you all see that, ladies? Anything you all need to say? Don't be what?
Too strong for your own good.
You know, that's the caution I have to have right there. While I'm trying to help others, I realize I'm human too. And so it makes me priestly in that Jesus was not a priest that was unable to be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but likewise, as you and I, he was tried and tempted or tested on all points. So I allow myself to be human in the moment, but dependent upon the logic of spirit, so that as I get through, we can come through. You ladies want to say anything about number 3?
I just want to add to what you're saying, Bishop. I know, like, even for me, just that spiritual connection kept me going. And I can honestly say, without that connection with God, I wouldn't have even made it to this point. You know, especially as I can reevaluate my, you know, my past. When I lost my husband, I was much stronger and more developed than I was when I lost my parents. And then I also learned from that experience. The most important thing is having that relationship with God. A lot of people, grieving in itself is already difficult, but a lot of time people miss it when they don't realize how much they really need God to help them get through it, and that He is truly our strength, because on our own we can't make it, or if we make it, we just barely making it without losing our mind.
That's good.
Yeah, it is good.
Corinne, you want to say anything there before we move to number 4?
I guess I'm just thinking, and I agree with her about, you know, if it wasn't for the Lord on my side, I know I wouldn't be at the point that I am now. But I guess I'm just thinking of those who don't have that spiritual background and that have the Lord and have Jesus and know the Lord and believe. I'm just wondering, I mean, how are they getting and how are they coping? Because everybody is not on that level.
Yeah. It's
Right,
true.
Corinne, that's why I need people like us to be there for them.
Yeah.
Just somebody that will listen and be there with a loving touch, or just a friendly embrace, or kind words.
Yes.
And that's why it's so important to have, yeah, and some people not even involved in our church family. They run the other way. But because you know now what it takes to get through that grief process, you can be there for somebody. You can be that sounding board, or that person that they don't feel ashamed to be around. They know they can cry, do whatever they feel like doing around you. You're not going to lash back out and tell them to shut up, because you know the difference. You know that everybody grieves differently. And I think it's so important that what we're talking about, not everybody need to understand that they are that help to that one person that's grieving right now, that may not know how to do it, that may not know where to go, or having problem getting through their grief process. So I think right now what we're doing is very important to help so many people, so many.
I totally agree.
So
And
go ahead. No, go ahead.
And I also wanted to say too, it is like you said, Sister Rosa, you do need that support. You do need that person that you can talk to and you can express your feeling and your pain without even being judged. Because you know, the wrong type of person could add, more harm to you than having that person
Yeah.
that would support you and help you process through the pain.
That's so I mean, look at number 3. And I said, don't be too strong for your own good. Surround yourself with people who do not have to put on a front with.
Boy, that's powerful.
Who I am, anytime I want to. I don't have to fake it. Just do it.
You know what's good about that? And I'm so grateful for this discussion, because a lot of people need to hear this. Sometimes we are so focused on our own self and how we are personally impacted that we really think the world evolves around us, as if other people really aren't deeply entrenched in deep anguish because of the fact that they are disregarded by our inability to be sensitive to the fact that they just simply may need us.
Yes.
What about the fact, ladies, that sometimes we get relief for the relief we provide others? Isn't that something?
It is.
What ministry is, it's one of those what we call revolving cycles, wherein you get what you're giving. It's kind of like you reap what you sow. If you will sow into others, you will reap from others. But if you keep everything housed in yourself, then you can actually wear yourself out. I like how Rosa said it. Don't be, how you said, too strong
For your own good.
for your own good. I just want, that's so good, boy. So that's 3. What's number 4?
Don't push yourself when you're tired. Get
Don't
rest.
push yourself when you are tired. Oh my God. Ladies, go ahead. You got to talk about that. Don't push it. Now, I'm sure that when you were in those critical moments, one thing about emotional anguish, it literally can take all of the gas out of your tank.
Yes.
Am I right? It can
You're right.
burn up all of your fuel in just a few seconds.
Yes.
Simply the wrong thought or the wrong word at the wrong time. The Bible says an appropriate word spoken at the right time is an awesome inclusion into an individual's life. So it's very important for us to be able to say something. Our words should be grace seasoned with salt, but sometimes we say things that affect each other emotionally in a way that it dries up all of our strength. I like that. Say it one more time, Rosa. What is it? And we're going to comment on it.
Don't push yourself when you are tired.
When you are tired. Come on, ladies, let's jump in on that. You had those moments. Does either of you remember those moments when you were just exhausted and others were saying sometimes, well, you need to get out. Well, you need to go do this and that. And you just didn't have it to give. Come on, let's revisit some of those moments.
Well, think about it. When someone passed that's close to you and you the one that house they come to, don't they worry you out by coming around visiting?
The love wears you out.
To be nice. You trying to be nice, entertain everybody. You making sure they're comfortable, and they come to eat too. So you making sure they got food to eat, water to drink. But you just tired.
You get
You're just
exhausted.
tired.
See,
And
now,
for some reason people don't see that.
I love that, because what you're looking at now, you're focusing on the fact that we literally get physically and psychologically worn because of all of the things we got to figure out because of the people that's coming around.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead, y'all take it.
It would be nice once in a while, if you came around, come in back of my floor for me.
Wow.
Tidy my kitchen up for me. Maybe even straighten up my bedroom. But we don't think in that arena. We just go to sit. I don't need you to just sit, because I still got things I got to do to keep focusing and functioning in the household. But until we can start learning how to do that as I want to say, as people of faith, for those that need us, that are in the family of faith or even outside the family of faith, we aren't doing them any good by just sitting. We have made them tired, and they don't have enough heart to tell you go home, because they're trying to be kind and polite, but they really just want you to go home so they can rest. They don't want you to put them all day long on the phone because they're tired of talking to you. They just want to hang the phone up and rest for a while. And we hinder them from getting that rest.
You are so candid. I love it. Now, you know what, ladies, in all honesty, in all fairness to this discussion, we need to hear this, because realistically, there is a lot of exhaustion that can be avoided if we would come into an individual's house with a question. Are you okay? Would you like for me to stay out? Would you like for me to shorten my stay? Is it okay if would you prefer I stay for a few minutes? Or see, and that gives us the liberty to be honest and open and say, well, I do thank you for coming, but I really am a little fatigued. You see what I'm saying?
I'm laughing. I love it.
Hold on a second. Kareem wanted to say something.
Oh, well, I guess I'm thinking kind of a little bit different.
Okay.
Because if you're talking like once the loved one died, passes, transitions, then someone come over. With me, because that was when my because everybody on here know my son, my 3 grandchildren, and his fiance passed all the same day at the same time. Okay, so with me, when people came over, and maybe I was a little rude because I was kind of in the other room, because that's where I felt like that I wanted to be, away from everybody and just to myself. And that's where I was. And I got 4 sisters. They were there. They were doing things. I had friends. They came, they did things. But me, I was in there to myself doing my own little thing and my own little cleaning or whatever needed to be done. So when people came over, I had other people, other family members entertain. I had other family members to answer my phone. I didn't text, I didn't answer, I didn't do anything because I knew I could not handle all of that. So, and for some people who don't have that, or some people who would prefer, you can't answer all the calls. You can't entertain everybody. That's exhausting.
It is.
So I was already mentally exhausted as it was, so I didn't take myself any further to make myself any more exhausted. If you y'all understand what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. But that was just me. I was just a little bit opposite. But yeah, but one thing I do want to say though, I really think that people and I try to practice this. Yeah, when you go over, you do offer to help and don't stay for 2 and 3 hours because some other people may want to come in and talk or visit. You know, I think, oh gosh, Bishop, I forgot how long you taught us. 7
15 minutes, 12
Yeah.
to 15 minutes max.
right.
Yeah.
And then you
I teach a
bow
principle
out.
called don't sit on the bed.
Yes.
You remember? So when
Don't
you
sit on the
visit,
bed.
don't
Don't
sit on
sit.
the bed. That's the principle. I require the leaders to stay no longer as representatives of Crown from 12 to 15 minutes. You remember that, Sandra?
Yes.
Because what happens is you can really fatigue the people just having and mentally exhaust them for having to try to figure out what they're going to do with you. So that becomes another issue along with the grief. And so it's the same way when we visit someone who's actually in the hospital with a sickness or dealing with some type of, viral experience or whatever. We teach the principle, don't sit on the bed. Don't get so comfortable until you appear to be as a part of the furniture. Pay your respects and keep it moving. Realize or regard the fact that others may need to stop by. And this is an exchange that will continue to happen for a series of days, a succession of days. So allow the person to have other respectful visitors without you having to be there like a piece of the furniture.
Unless they want you to stay.
Unless they ask you to stay, yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
COVID-19 has it hitting on the nail. They hammered it right down the nail. They said, put that sign on the door. Don't say past 10 minutes.
Okay.
Now we can remember that when COVID is over, when we go visit someone that had lost a family member, remember, don't stay past 10 minutes. Your time is up after 10 minutes.
Right.
Don't wait out. But I don't know, Bishop, because I know my father died. I know family member came by just to eat. I'm serious. They wouldn't leave until they ate. I'm looking at my mother. She's sitting here sad, and I said, Mom, I'm gonna tell them all to go home. She said, no, leave them alone, leave them alone. They family. I said, I don't care what they are, Mom. I want them to go home. But I watched some of them. Once
Now,
they get
wait a minute.
food in their stomach, they went home. That's not right. That's not right.
Listen, for those of you who are part of this program for me, as you listen to us, understand again, all of us have grieved and all of us are grieving. And these are very deeply entrenched experiences, but we're sharing a transparent level of information so that you understand how your grief might be impacting others. Rosa has been a little candid tonight. Thank God for her anointing.
Yes, she is.
But what you got to understand is simply this. What she is saying is don't make your eating their priority. I think that's you can add that as another principle. Don't make getting a meal from the person who has lost, who's grieving or lost. Don't make getting a meal their priority. Don't let your getting a meal become my priority during my moment of loss. Is that a good way to say it, ladies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know what? Sister Rosa talking about people coming to eat up the food. I wish I probably had some people to come eat up mine. I had so much coming in. I didn't have that issue.
Okay.
I did have a lot of good support. but it was a little draining. And the reasoning was the time they come and didn't know how to leave. And then
Yes.
some would come like 9 o'clock at night, and I'm like, okay, it's about time for nobody to come, and then you might have somebody come ringing the bell about 9 o'clock, want to show their respect, and then I'm trying to be nice, but I did let them come in, and thank God it didn't stay long. And always say the next time I have to go through something like this again, I would. It was one member I remember, and I think she was very wise when she set a time and said, you can come and visit this day. She was having visitation at her home this particular day, and she put a time on it. And I think that was really wise, because you got 4 or 5 days consecutive, people
Yeah.
coming, staying, they start early in the morning, all the
Yeah.
way to the day. It is very exhausting. But when
Yes.
people don't know better, they do that, because
Right.
that's been tradition for years and years and years, and they really see it as I'm coming to support. But
Right.
they don't realize that it could be very draining
Yes.
for the family at that time. And at certain points, it does help, because it helps take your mind off things. But
Yes.
on the other hand, it still need to be a cutoff time for the individual to get the proper rest they need. Because after everything was over, for me, I crashed for days. I didn't return no phone call until I felt like I was rested.
Yes. Yes.
So
You know,
now, it sounds like Rosa,
only- I didn't mind feeding them, Bishop, but don't give me the idea that's the only reason you came.
well, see,
And
here's
I'll
the thing.
have a lot of them.
I think one of the things we've learned from this tonight, Rosa, is it's important for us to, like Minister Simmons said, to set some type of orientation there.
Yes.
That
Yes.
will govern the visitations. If we would just go ahead and be proactive enough to simply say, please, if you come, please make a descriptive sign. And if people visit and know exactly what your expectations are, and you're thanking them for paying respect, then
Yes.
they're usually going to be very, honoring of what your wishes are. So again,
Some people, yeah.
That's-
huh?
Some people, yes.
Some people, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, now that's 4. What was the first one, Rosa?
Find a listening post.
Number
Someone patient and kind.
Okay, number 2.
Talk about it, cry about it, kick the dog if you have to, but definitely let it out.
Okay, number 3.
Don't be too strong for your own good.
And number 4,
Don't push yourself when you are tired.
when you're tired. Now, number 5.
Don't expect to feel only one emotion.
Okay, all right,
Even-
ladies, y'all got that. Don't expect to feel only one emotions. Now, there are at least 5 basic emotions associated with grief, the loss of a loved one. And they can range from anger to depression to a numbness, where you're just simply wanting to be isolated because of you do not accept it. You don't,
Right.
having a hard time accepting. I mean, just a gambit of emotions. So let's talk about some of the things that you all experience and how we need to realize that there will be more than one emotional manifestation or display that we will encounter.
Wow. I think
All
I'm
my
gonna-
team at one
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sister Rosa.
I just felt a gamut of everything at one time. So it was always hard for me to express exactly what I feel. And something I could be feeling sad right now, then all of a sudden I get teary-eyed and depressed, like I just want to say anything to anybody or talk to anybody. And then sometimes just became angry. It was just like it just kept jumping from one thing to another. So when somebody asked me how I felt, I could never really tell them how I felt because I was feeling so many things at once. So it was hard to really narrow it down to the fact that I'm feeling sad, because the sadness was overtaken by the bout of crying. Then the crying was overtaken by anger, and then the anger was overtaken by denial, or the fact that I didn't feel like I did enough. You know, so many things are just surfacing, so I can never really express one thought to anybody when they ask me how I would feel. So now I'll come back most times and, how do you think I feel? Because I couldn't explain to you.
Okay,
I
lady.
think my biggest one was, y'all, my biggest one was depression, and well, depression, but the biggest one I think is guilt.
Mm,
I went through that period. Sometimes I still do wondering, and I spoke to you, Bishop, about it. I mean, what should I, maybe if I would have been a better mother, maybe if I would have raised them differently, maybe if I would have told them don't go to the military, you know, going through all those different emotions, like it's my fault. And when I called him that night, actually we text, and then after the text, then the phone call, I called him, and of course, every time I get off the phone, he always say, I love you. And I was like, well, should I have called, or, I just thinking those guilty feelings, like, well, had I done this, then that would not have happened.
Wow.
So I try to free myself from that guilt, because I think I remember you telling me is nothing in the world I could have done to change anything to make that outcome any different than what it was.
Beautiful.
So that's one of my biggest, that guilt.
Well, I think my first initial was shock,
Denial.
and yes, shock and denial. Because actually, when everything happened, I tried to resume life as normal, which is, I think it's good to try to move forward. But when I tried to move forward, I was still in shock and denial that it really happened. And then after the realization of it, realizing it happened, is I went through anger, depression, suicide thoughts came. Um, those was my different type emotions I went
mm,
through.
Wow, that's so powerful. We're getting close to our timeline, so that's beautiful, ladies. And I'm sure that our audience is really going to be able to identify with a lot of what you all have expressed. What was the next number? Is it 6?
don't blame yourself.
There it is, Corrine. Don't blame yourself. One of the things that Minister Simpkins just said was
Yes.
she really went through a gambit of looking at what she could have done to change the outcome. And that's where the blame comes from. You know, you got to realize too, as we grieve, Satan doesn't change his face. He uses everything he possibly can to make life difficult for
Yes.
us.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why the Bible says give no place to the devil is because anything inordinate he uses against us. And that's why the scripture tells us in our grief or in our sorrow, do not handle it as those who have no hope. So we got to remain in hope. We got to remember that we are saved in hope. And what a man seeth, why did he yet hope for it? So hope that is seen is not hope. God is saying, keep your hope strong. And so hope keeps you directly connected to faith, and faith keeps you trusting God for a favorable outcome, regardless to the difficulty of the loss. And so that's very critical. Go ahead, Rose.
You just touched on something that I found last night. I was reading some old papers I wrote. I'm going to read this back to you, or back to the group, period. In grief, we need to go through the valley of the shadow of death, so that when we get to the other side, in faith, we can affirmatively declare, I want to live, I have hope for life. I believe that God has a future for me.
Beautiful.
Want and need are the coordinates of my desire for life beyond the broken heart. Grief can be the most honest and faithful place we stand to find hope. I was just looking at some papers I wrote years ago, and I found that statement. I said, "Oh, that's right now." And then I went on and said, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." And you just made me think about when you use that word hope. But
yeah, that's so important. Some things we just really got to find a quick place to get back to trusting God, because
yes,
things are going to make sense. Okay, now go ahead and give us, what is it, number 7 now?
7 is don't alienate yourself.
Oh,
Don't alienate yourself.
tell you what, ladies, I'm not going to comment on that. I'm going to let you all comment on this, because you need to talk about why number 7 would be don't alienate yourself.
I think I don't exactly know how to say it, but I'm good for alienating myself. I think because looking at it from a spiritual standpoint, when you alienate yourself and you dealing with this grief by yourself, it makes it easier for the enemy. He has a gateway. It's an easier gateway to you when you are by yourself, because trying to fight that spiritual battle by yourself can be a little bit tough at this time, because some of the ammunition that you have, you may not be using it, or you may not feel like using it, or you may not be as armored as you need to be at that particular time. But I think it kind of opens the door for the enemy, make it a little bit easier for him to, he's a target, I'll say.
I like that.
I have to totally agree with Corrine. That would be one of the way that the enemy would use in an avenue, if he gets you to yourself, wherein he can penetrate all of the negative thoughts, try to make you feel unworthy, or trying to make you feel that you need to go head on and give up. So it's good to surround yourself with people, or keep doing a different type of activity instead of being by yourself. I learned that from my first experience, instead of trying to deal with it all by myself, I try to keep going and keep myself surrounded with support system. And so at least if I know that I'm really need to reach out to somebody, I know that I can touch the individuals that,
Amen.
that I need to touch in my life. But I know it's very important not to alienate yourself from, from anyone.
It's amazing how Satan can take that spot if you allow yourself to alienate yourself, to really destroy you. It's sort of like being in a bad relationship. If you think about it, a lot of times people in bad relationship, one of the party is really a controlling person, and they try to keep you away from everything. They have downgraded you so long and said so many bad things about you. So they try to keep you from everybody else that might lift you up and give you an encouraging word. And when you alienate yourself, when you're going through that grief, you're doing the same thing. You're keeping yourself in a place that nobody can help lift you up. And when you're around people that have your best interests at heart, they can always speak a word to encourage you and to push you upward, not to push you back down. And I found that when I'm not around good people, or people that have good vibes about them, it's so quickly to get into a place of depression.
Wow.
And make yourself feel downtrodden. You start thinking about past things that have been said about you. You no good. You can't do this. You can't do that. And the same thing happens when you're going through grief. People already looked at it and said, you're crying too much. You shouldn't cry. And when you're isolating yourself, you start thinking those things are true and you start acting on those things. But when there's someone coming in to lift you up, those things quickly leave your thought pattern. You don't think about, I shouldn't cry any longer. You're talking now. And this person, because they're talking about to you, you find a freedomness to even cry because they're not judging you. So we don't need to be isolated. We need to keep people around us. And when we minister in this area of grief, the greatest thing we can do for anybody is just be there.
Wow.
We always play, what should I say? What should I do? Nothing, just be there.
Wow.
That means more to the person that going through their grief than anything else you could possibly give to them. You took your time out of your busy schedule and you came to just be there with them. Just to be there and listen to what they have to say, to hear them out. Not to put anything back into the atmosphere, but just to hear what they got to say. And if we don't do anything else for those that are going through, just be there. Just be there for them. And
So I suppose also it's safe to say then, in closing, Sandra, we'll turn it back over to you, that alienation is the process of isolation that Satan uses for the sake of incubation of all the wrong emotions.
yes,
So he harvests in your life the wrong point of view, the wrong
Yes.
perspective, the wrong perceptions, the wrong understanding. I mean, all of these are synonymous terms, but it ends up being the wrong feelings, the wrong
Yes.
postures, the wrong conversation. So that's why isolation and alienation in this period is a very dangerous situation to be in. And
yes.
we got to learn how to kind of make ourselves accessible for others. Would you just read the other seven off, all seven off one more time for someone who's listening? I'm asking somebody out there that's listening to also post each of the seven, please, so that it will be shown on our comment section, and those who are dealing with grief will have an opportunity to see how to change the face of it so that their grief in isolation is not something that's causing problems for other persons. And then Minister Simmons can take it and you can close us out. Go ahead, Rosa. All seven.
First is find a listening post, someone patient and kind. Talk about it, cry about it. That was number 2. Number 3, don't be too strong for your own good. Number 4, don't push yourself when you are tired. Number 5, don't expect to feel only one emotion. Number 6, don't blame yourself. Number 7, don't alienate yourself or isolate yourself. And number 8 that we added,
Okay.
don't make getting a meal become your priority during my loss.
Wow. Beautiful. All right, ladies, tremendous broadcast. Thank you so much.
Amen. We want to thank everyone out there in social media land for joining us tonight. And I
Yeah.
hope that we shared something tonight that you can carry off with you that can assist you through any type of loss that you may have suffered in your life. And we also want to invite you to feel free to sow into our ministry, Crown Kingdom Cultural Center. You can go on www.fbjm.org and you can sow a seed into our ministry. And if you have a desire, you also can sow into our Bishop life. And his cash app is Finest Bush Jr. And once again, we want to thank you for your support on tonight. And if you have any questions, any concern, we invite your calls, your emails. We will give you, I will give the ladies a chance to give you their number and email address, and you may contact any one of us for any type of assistance.
Okay, my phone number is 803-640-7193, 803-640-7193. And my email address is Mrs. Corrine @outlook.com. That's MRSCORINE, Mrs. Corrine @outlook.com.
And mine is, this is Rosa, 803-295-7174. My email address is rosamiles@gmail.com.
Amen. And you may contact me at 803-52, I'm sorry, 706-524-6833. My email address is simmonsandra50@gmail.com. Hope you enjoyed the segment tonight and looking forward to seeing you again. And you may come back in with us on Sunday morning. Meet us back here on Facebook Live Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Be blessed, each and every one. Good night.
Good night.
Right.
Good night.